Hello, my name is Sari Vuohtoniemi. Warmly welcome to do an exercise with me. This exercise will last about 20-25 minutes, and I suggest you grab 2 blank A4s and a pen for this exercise. I really hope you will get new insights and perhaps learn something new about yourself, and perhaps also learn a new tool that you can use in your daily work and to deal with stress and develop resilience. Albert Einstein said that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created these problems. I've been using this tool for almost a decade with myself and with my coaching practice, and also with several groups. And I'm always amazed how easily we can get access to a new level of thinking via doing a simple mind-body bridging exercise. In this exercise we are going to do next, we will actually write down some cognitive maps and become aware of what kind of thoughts and storylines our mind is feeding us and what kind of body tension they may cause. Then we tune into our senses for a short moment, and in that way we quiet unnecessary clutter of our mind. And also we might get better our resources in use. Of course, you will get a better view of this exercise by just trying it out. So let's start. Are you ready? So I would ask you to pick one thing that causes you stress at the moment. It can be anything. It can be this corona crisis, lockdown because of that, situation at work. It could be you have a lot of work, or you don't have enough work. It could be a conflict with a family member or colleague. It could be changes. It could be anything that you find stressful at this very moment. And I ask you to put the first paper horizontally in front of you, and then write down in the middle of that paper that topic, that challenge of yours. And I will soon ask you to write down whatever comes to your mind related to that topic of yours. And I would ask you to do that for 2 minutes. Do not edit or second guess what you write. Everything is correct. Everything is just as it should be. And just freely write down whatever comes to your mind. This is an example of what could be written because of corona crisis and what kind of stress that might cause. But don't copy this. Do your own map. It's just an idea how to write down around the circle these sentences and thoughts. And I give you 2 minutes to do this. Any thoughts, any feelings that you have, that you experience, just write down everything there. Okay? Okay, let's continue. And if you have still something to write on, you can of course pause this video and complete your paper, whatever you want to put there. Okay, next, what I would ask you to do is to have a look at the topics, have a look at the sentences, thoughts, perhaps feelings that you've written down there, and start scanning your body. Is your body relaxed, or do you notice any tension? We might experience tension in very many different places in our bodies. We may experience it in our chest. We may experience in our shoulders, stomach, hands, or we can experience in our whole body. Some of us don't very easily recognize any body tension, but what we do notice is that when we think about those topics that we have written there, we just like have a lot of circulating thoughts. We have a lot of spinning thoughts around, spinning thoughts in our head, and we just can't think clearly. So what I would like you to do is to scan your body, or see if you have these spinning thoughts in your head, and have a look at each one of the sentences separately and put pluses, like 3 pluses if you have a lot of body tension, a lot of spinning thoughts, 2 pluses if you have some, or 1 plus if you have just a little, and 0 if you don't have any body tension or spinning thoughts. So just take your time to scan your body, scan your head, and see if you have any body tension or spinning thoughts, and put pluses accordingly. If you have a lot of body tension and also spinning thoughts, or then either of them, or both perhaps, how do you act? How is that affecting your behavior? How is that affecting your ability to make decisions? Very often, if we have tense body, we cannot think very clearly. We feel like we're stuck with our thoughts in a way. I don't know if you recognize the same. I do very often if I'm experiencing stress. So let's continue and come back to this, why we did this map and this part of this exercise a little bit later. But first, I would ask you to write down the same challenge in the middle of the paper. And next, we will focus on our senses. And during this short exercise, or this short practice of focusing our senses, if you have any thoughts, return always to your senses, back to your senses, and do it very gently. And do it as many as necessary, okay? So, I would ask you to set yourself very comfortably, and you might want to close your eyes as well. And breathe as you would normally breathe. I ask you to listen to the background sounds you hear around you. without giving them any meaning. Just hear the sounds. And experience your body's pressure on your seat. And feel your feet on the floor. You can really feel the gravity pulling your feet even more firmly to the floor. I ask you to listen to your breath. And sense how the air is going in to your lungs and out. In and out. And if you still have your pen in your hand, feel it. If you don't, sense your hands where they are. And you can perhaps put your hands against one another and press them against one another. Take your time. Just focus on the senses. And if you have thoughts, gently return to your senses and do it as many times as necessary. And last, I would ask you to focus on one of these senses. You can focus on the background sounds. You can focus on your feet, your body pressed against a chair. You can focus on your breath. Listening to your breath or feeling your breath. Focus on one of these or even many of them if you want to. And gradually, with your own pace, you can start to open your eyes. And look at the challenge, what you have written on your paper. And now, write down whatever comes to your mind. And at the same time, focus on those senses. Listening to the background sounds, feeling the pen in your hand, sensing your breath, hearing your breath, hearing the background sounds. Focus just writing whatever comes to your mind. And if nothing comes to your mind, that's okay as well. Just let it, just write whatever comes to your mind without forcing yourself. Okay. Do you feel any body tension or spinning thoughts? It could be that those tensions are gone, but it could be that you still have them, and that is okay as well. And now what I would like you to do is to have both those papers in front of you and see how these so-called maps, how these two papers differ from another. very often the second map includes less stuff, less thoughts. And they also, very many people found the second map more positive than the first one. Also, very often you might find some solutions there. We might get even new creative ideas that we haven't thought before. We might get new perspectives, some very wise perspective as well. And for example, all is well, and things will work out well, or there will be good things coming out of this all, and so forth. So the perspective is very different, typically. So now we have learned the first basic skill of mind-body bridging, which is called mapping. And just to wrap up shortly, a short theory part of what happened here. So we all have a lot of thoughts during the day, and all the thoughts are natural. But when our identity system or default mode network in our brain captures the natural thought, it starts to exaggerate it. For example, because now we have this coronavirus, I might lose my job, and then I won't be able to pay my rent or mortgage, and soon I'll be homeless and going to live on the bridge. And so we start imagining the worst happening, and of course end up being stressed. And this happens very fast, faster than we very often even notice. We just notice that we are stressed, and we might notice that body tension. But it's really useful to have a look at what kind of thoughts we actually feed ourselves. So this body tension can be really the sign for our overactive identity system. And that is the way we notice it. So it's very important for us to pay attention what is happening in our bodies, because very often it's wiser than our head telling us how we are really doing. I've noticed that several times in my life. When we have noticed that our identity system is overactive, it really is limiting our awareness, and it's harder for us to react in the best possible way, and we might make bad decisions. We might experience negative emotions, stress, anxiety, and we might experience sleeping problems. And when we focus on our senses, and therefore we actually, what is happening, we are coming to our senses, the identity system quiets, and we get our executive mode network in use, and we have less stress, and we have our internal resources in use much better than before. Clearer thinking, we have more creative ideas, make better decisions, and so forth. So it's very important to be aware what kind of thoughts we have, and our bodies, our body tension is the media for us to be more aware of the thoughts that might cause us stress. So to wrap up, some basic techniques of mind-body bridging that we just tried. The first one is become aware when my default mode network or identity system is really driving the show. And we notice that via tense body and circulating thoughts. And then we can rest my default mode network by focusing on our senses, whatever the sense was that was working you the best. Try that in your everyday life. Anytime you feel stressed, just focus on your senses and you will notice the difference. And more you practice, the easier it will come definitely in your everyday life as well. And then the other one is doing 2-part mapping exercises and focusing on your senses in between those two maps. And that is exactly what we did just a while ago. And then third one, what we haven't talked about yet, is taking distance by naming or labeling my thoughts. If I notice a thought that is causing me stress, I'm just saying, okay, I notice I'm having a thought that I'm afraid that I might lose my job, or my family will get sick, or whatever it will be. So mind-body bridging includes many more approaches also and tools. And for example, recognizing your unmet requirements, what you can actually recognize perhaps from your first map. Especially in those thoughts where you have a lot of body tension, you might want to look, okay, what is the expectation towards myself or towards the others or towards the world that is not met here? What is not happening? And because of that, my expectations are not met. That is causing me stress. That is very important to recognize that. As well, it's good to recognize your depressor fix cycle that is working inside of us. It's how we depress ourselves, how we put ourselves down, and what are our own individual ways to fix that, fix the problem that we see. Okay, there is a problem and I try to fix it. And that's also dysfunctional. And we will never get out of that if we don't realize that cycle. So mind-body bridging includes a lot of different kind of tools and techniques, which are very exciting. And I've noticed that they really, really work and are very, very good at trying out. So last, I would like to share with you a beautiful quote, which is one of my favorites. It's by doctor and concentration camp survivor Viktor E. Frankl. I'm sure many of you have seen this before. And he said that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Stress is not caused by external circumstances, but what we think about these circumstances and what's happening around us. And the good news is then that we can influence them. We can influence on our thoughts and we can influence how we feel. And becoming aware of what is happening in our mind and body and focusing on our senses, we can have access to the wisdom that is already within us. For more information, you can find it from my web pages. There are some services which include, some of them include also mind-body bridging, and also some research of mind-body bridging. If you want to have a look, you can find from this web pages. And then last question that I want to leave you with are, what was the most important takeaway from this exercise for you? And the second question is that what is different from now on? Thank you so much for joining me to do this exercise. I really hope that you got something out of it. I hope you all the best. See you. Bye-bye.